Good morning to both of you. Lance, would you be advising him to make this speech today?
Yes, I think he's absolutely right to make the speech. There's no doubt at all that Britain voted for Brexit, but they didn't vote, in Tony Blair's words, for Brexit at any cost. And those of us who think that it was a mistake, that Britain is better off in the European Union, would be failing in our duty if we simply gave up. Democracy isn't something that's sort of frozen in time. You just have one vote and that's the end of it. If the British people were suddenly to look at the package and think, hang on a second, this isn't what we voted for. This is clearly going to damage British jobs, my own family, and our economy, our income, our wealth, our kids' future and all the rest of it. Then one way or another, that's how we live in a vibrant democracy. One way or another, that view will be expressed. Now, it might be expressed at a general election. It's just possible that the Labour Party could get its act together and or the Liberal Democrats or those parties who campaign to stay in. And at the moment, looking at it, it looks as if Brexit is the settled view of the country. It's not the settled view of the country.
Well,
and in 2 years, my only point really is that in 2 years, things could look very, very different.
OK, we have to go to Andrew because he's sitting there.
You know, here we go again, this lot of elite people. We're so stupid, those of us who voted for Brexit. We didn't know what we were voting for. We're a bit thick, we're a bit stupid. It's all about immigration. And what a cheek of Tony Blair, of all people. This is the man who, in 2005, gave away half of the rebate to the European Union that Mrs Thatcher negotiated in return for reform to the Common Agriculture Policy. We never got any reform at all. That's cost, on average, by the Treasury's own figures and the House of Commons Library's own figures, families about £640. And his great hero, Tony Blair, when the European Union was expanded and Poland and all these countries came in, was advised to have transitional arrangements to limit the amount of immigration coming in. Blair didn't think we needed that because we were only going to get 15, 20,000 coming in. What came in the first year? About 850,000. The reason so many people voted to leave the European Union because Blair got it all wrong on immigration.
But isn't part of the problem, though, that even if his message somewhere, is right or people agree with it, the messenger himself is completely discredited. People just find him to be a toxic figure now, don't they?
I mean, Andrew sits there fuming about Tony Blair and the record and the European
Labour Party
Union.
Can't stand him, Lance. Your own party can't stand him.
But in his fury, he doesn't listen to what I was actually saying, which is that if Brexit were not to happen, it would not be because of Tony Blair, it would not be because of me, it would not be because of any of what Andrew calls the liberal elite, it would be because the British people decided that
how are they going to... So would you like a referendum in 2 years' time?
I think a second referendum is a perfectly acceptable possibility, and there's nothing undemocratic about it.
And if the British public said, we don't want this deal, I mean, what is there to say that Theresa May would even be allowed to go back after 2 years to have a deal, to renegotiate? I mean, they might just say, no, actually, you've had your 2 years, you can...
Well, let's see what happens in 2 years' time. If what we're presented with is so manifestly not in the interest of the British people, it's a big if. We don't know what the package is.
Listen, in the leaflet that went through
Democracy
said this. Every household in Britain got a leaflet through the door, paid for by the taxpayer, from the government, in the run-up to the referendum, arguing the case of why we should stay in. There was no argument for why we should leave. And in that document, it said, the government will accept the view of the people. The view of the people was we're leaving. So why are people like him and Tony Blair, who's taking time off from making $1 million from a speech, trying to overturn the will of the British people?
We're not trying to overturn the will of the British people.
Yes, you are.
No.
He wants you to rise up. I mean, the sort of language of revolution.
We're trying to preserve the right of the British people to express their will.
And Tony Blair, the man who did so much damage in our relationship with the European Union by giving away the rebate, by letting so many people come into Britain, and immigration was a big factor in why we decided to leave.
Well, he's giving a speech later on today, isn't he? So we'll see what reaction he gets and who listens.
And it'd be quite unusual for Blair to make a speech and he's not charging £1 million for it.
Anyway. Interesting to see the reaction from everybody else as well. We'll have to leave it there, Lance and Andrew. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you both.